So here I am, and it has not been the best of mornings. I'm just gonna throw that one out there right now. That's why I'm still adjusting myself. I'm having one of those days. Asthma's bad, so I don't know how long you're gonna have me for. Strap keeps showing. Talk a little bit about the Gypsy Rose Blanchard situation. I've had so many people asking my opinion on that, and oh my word, do I have thoughts about that? Do I have thoughts about that? Most definitely, and I just have to talk about this just a little bit. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago when Netflix released the, show they had done, The Act. Was it 4 was it 5 years ago? I'm not really sure the exact, but, I watched it when it first came out with my daughter. We watched that because my baby had been in the hospital for a length of time when she was 4, so 2 years? I think it's pre-COVID is when that came out because I saw it when my daughter came here, and we laid on the sofa together and just watched it in horror and talked about her experiences in the hospital, how she felt about it, what had happened to her, how I felt about it. We really had a good series of conversations about it, but it was a little dicey there. It brought back a lot of bad memories. It was very triggering in a lot of ways. So it isn't anything that I've revisited because of my own triggers from that terrible time when my daughter was so sick. And we came damn close to losing her to idiopathic thrombocytic purpura, I think is how it's pronounced. It's called ITP. We came close to losing her. Ah, I thought it was pre-COVID because I look at my Costa Rica experiences pre-COVID, post-COVID. I guess there's a COVID in the middle there too, but it was a strange time. It was when they came because from, um, 2019 until everything reopened here and she was able to come in last year maybe? Or maybe the year before, I don't know. There were a couple of years that none of us traveled. I didn't travel to see them, they didn't travel to see me because you just couldn't. And we like I said, it was a good time watching this show, even though the show was so horrifying and triggering, because we were able to actually have a long conversation about what we went through when she was doing that. God, I love this blouse, but it just keeps slipping. So there you go. Now I have distinct feelings about this with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I just want to say first, what Dee Dee Blanchard did was all kinds of wrong. Absolutely all kinds of wrong. You just don't do those things. You don't make your child sicker or pretend so that you can get attention. That's called Munchausen's syndrome by proxy. And I remember having a long conversation with other parents of very ill children then in the waiting room because they had a parents' lounge at the end of that particular area of the UVA hospital at a parents lounge with sandwiches and just different things, and it was just a nice quiet space where you could sit down. They were having at the time, UVA section where they had all these kids that had really bad sicknesses that were coming from all over the place. They had a washer and dryer so you could do your laundry, and it was really needed because some of us were coming long distances to go there. I talked to some people who came from as far away as West Virginia and I think Ohio, Kentucky. Now, we didn't come that far away, but the conversation that we had in the lounge that day was a long one about Munchausen's by proxy because so many of us it had burst in the news around then. Sounds like Boston's children. I'm glad that they have that because if you're stuck there and your child has something really serious going on and everybody on that ward had leukemia and all sorts of things going on. And If they hadn't had that, you would have, God knows what you would have done. One thing I told my ex church, got a box of Kleenex, representing y'all, that they needed to do was do a clothing closet. They didn't need to do a very big one. But that was one of the things that I had to do was run out and get my daughter a robe and slippers, and we had to go out and I had to get myself a change of clothes. I don't know what we were thinking when we packed. We just threw some stuff in a bag and ran when they told us we had to go there. And we missed a lot of things that we should have brought with us. So going back to Gypsy, because I really did not intend to go on a ramble about my own child here. But that informs my opinion of this. I had to buy everything from the gift shop. Oh goodness, yeah. I had to do that too. At one point, my daughter was taken off to the children's like education thing where they would take them for a couple hours a day just to be able to do stuff with them. I remember running to the Fashion Square Mall just to be able to get underwear and a change of t-shirt, you know? So Dee Dee was somebody that learned the ropes from the child being so sick initially. And I'm not sure if Gypsy Rose was very sick at first or her mother was just overreacting, but at some point her mother got locked into this idea that this was her identity, was caring for this child that was so incredibly sick. And we know from the different articles that have come out, the different television shows, documentaries, various things, that Dee Dee herself had some issues, obviously, and she made this her personality. I've seen that before. You guys have seen that before here online. I'm not even going to say that woman's name, but there's some similarities. There's some big similarities there between the two, between Dee Dee and her. What Dee Dee did was absolutely wrong, and at some point, Gypsy started playing along with it. She admitted that she went along with all of this. I cannot imagine the trauma that Gypsy went through because I know it had to be traumatic, even when she was cooperating with her mother and pretending that everything was awful. Going through having your teeth removed, and pretending that everything was awful. Going through having your teeth removed, having a feeding tube put in, having your head shaved. For a girl of that age to have your head shaved is just a major thing. It's not good. And to have to talk all the time in that little girl voice. She makes me laugh because my voice so would be less straight on my vocal cords. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine about that last night on phone call. It might be easier in your vocal cords, but it doesn't feel natural. If you're like me and you're used to talking, singing, whatever, in your natural voice, it does not work. So at some point, Gypsy stopped being 100% victim and started to cooperate. Now, how far that was going on, a little medically abused but spoiled. Yes, medically abused but spoiled. That was the thing when she was doing this stuff. And I haven't paid much attention to this story since Dee Dee was murdered and Godejohn and Gypsy Rose both confessed and went to prison. I thought she'll be there forever. Little did I know, she got out after very little time. So I told somebody when she first got out and I saw the media circus, I said, this little girl would have gotten therapy in jail, right? She would have gone into therapy because that's really what she needed for that kind of profound trauma. And make no mistake about it, medical trauma is a thing with children. It's a horrible thing. To this day, I see how it plays out. What happened plays out with my daughter. I see that she has little idiosyncrasies about that time. And I carry stuff away. We all carry stuff away when we go through trauma. People when they go through those kinds of bedrock traumas, and it doesn't happen. It took me forever to get to the therapist about my own childhood trauma. I had severe asthma as a child. I'd say worse than I have it now, and I have it pretty bad now. And that's why I'm kind of rambling today. God bless you, Takis. I eat super spicy food when my asthma's really bad. It helps a lot, believe it or not. I can actually breathe a little bit better. So she was despoiled. And what she did was heinous and awful because she planned it for a long time. He was the one that planned it, not Nicholas go to John. He didn't plan anything. He was just in love and he went along with her, yet he got the life sentence and she didn't. Explain to me how a planner got away with it. There was no good way for the life for Mother. No, there was no good way. There was no way that this was ever going to end right. And I'm not saying that the mothership explorers at Down the Rabbit Hole Bedtime did a podcast on physicians misdiagnosing. Compare Dee Dee Blanchard and the Beata Kowalski cases. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. I don't know about the Kowalski case. Because like I said, I don't look about this stuff too much because it is quite triggering if you through that with her. We went through a terrible time. And to this day, she still has some health issues that I think are related to that. And then her older sister is telling us that we all have this other rare ailment and it's playing out in different ways. And it could be, could well be. I talked to my doctor about it and she was like, no. But I think it's a possibility at the very least. So I don't know. I don't think there was any good way for this to end. I think that there would have been horribleness no matter what happened. There was no good way for Dee Dee to exit any of this. And because of the way the medical system is, I'm going to just throw this out. If there had been electronic medical records fully in place and standardized across the US, they might have caught they might have caught her. They might have caught Dee Dee at what she was doing and put a stop to it. I used to work at a clinic. We had 3 or 4 different types of EMR, the electronic medical records. So, too bad Dee Dee didn't get caught and was sent to prison. Exactly. But that's one of those things I don't think you can get much prison time for, just based upon what I've seen, unless people are getting more time for it now. It's terrible that she did not go to prison and that Gypsy Rose did not get any kind of counseling. It didn't happen in prison. It's not happening since she's been out, apparently. She's been out less than a month. And I don't think she has I think that Dee Dee created a narcissist with how she treated her daughter. And I don't say that lightly. Narcissist is not a word that I throw around all the time. It does not. Not even when talking about this woman. Um, and I don't really know what it would have taken to catch Dee Dee. Attitudes of parents make a big difference to physicians. The ones that smile and are, yes, yes, you're so great, like Dee Dee, this makes him think she's just a sweet, loving mama. Is that troll leaving you alone? No, the trolling still continues, but I don't care. It was pre-beer virus. Yeah, I know it was pre-beer. Hulu. Yeah, it was on Hulu. I had Hulu back then. Ruby Frank and Jody Hildebrand are getting the book thrown at them. Good. They need it. They need it. For what they did to those kids, they need it. They need it. So I would like to see Dee Dee, not Dee Dee, what am I saying? Gypsy get some therapy. I think Gypsy should have been on hook as much as go to John, but because of the trauma that she faced, I'm sure that's why she got a lesser sentence. That's why the charges weren't quite the same as go to John, even though go to John was manipulated by he was manipulated by Gypsy Rose. So I don't really know where all of this is going to end up. Yeah, I question if the Blanchard case would have been generating as much press as the Frank kids, but it was just as bad, if not worse, for Gypsy. Maya's mom was assertive about getting her daughter help. She was accused and her daughter taken away. That's the problem right now with all of this is nobody really knows for sure what the best treatments are and who is and doctors, let's face it. Now I know this from working at a large clinic with a pile of physicians. Doctors have enormous egos many times. I'm not going to say all the time because I've had some actually very wonderful doctors. I had a critical health care pulmo for years that got me my mastocytosis mast cell disorder diagnosis. And he was just the best. He ended up being a good friend of mine before they ran him out of town. She had hypochondria and extreme health anxiety. That happens when you are dealing with a chronically ill child, extreme health anxiety. I wasn't trying to say that about my daughter, but she did too. She had a bit of that. Maya's mom, yeah, okay. Gypsy could benefit greatly from time at Menninger. They still have Freudian approach long stays. The best thing for Gypsy to do is heal. I absolutely agree with you, Prairie. I think that she needs a place like that. Forgotten until recently that Dee Dee was a certified nursing assistant. I think that's why she was so convincing. Could well be why she was so incredibly convincing about everything. Plus, she's got that sweet Southern way about her, and she had that I'm just this little old Cajun gal thing going on. So I think she was able to mask who she truly was, the monster that was inside Dee Dee was, and get away with it for all those years. Like I said, electronic medical records across the board that were transferable would have stopped this. And hopefully the Affordable Care Act mandated that there be electronic medical records that had integrations through them. I don't know if that was ever implemented. One of the things I did for my critical care pulmo was I went in and worked on that for him. He asked me to because he knew I had worked at this bigger clinic with all these different EMRs, and he had always been paper charts till that point. So he was struggling with it. Old school doctors are used to paper charts. It was a hell of a bad thing for them. I remember my old clinic, we had one doctor that would screw up a laptop every 30 minutes. So I would keep a line of laptops all booted up for him on the table next to my desk. Still blown away that neuro at Children's Mercy in KC, best in the world for pediatric neuro, can see the signs of MVP in her place. I'd like to do some research on that. Hackers can't hack a paper chart. You're absolutely correct about that. They cannot hack a paper chart. And whenever we would get new patients, we would say, copy of the paper chart, please, before we do even agree to take them on as patients. And the chart would land on my desk. I would go through it. I would flag anything that the doctors needed to see and send that chart on to them to make the final decision whether or not this person was a pillhead or whatever. Make a decision from there as to whether to even take them on as a patient in the clinic. Because some people, I used to have a list next to my desk called "The Dog Ate My Oxycontin," because this was the very beginning when people were starting to realize that the synthetic opioids had opened a really big can of worms, nasty worms. And anytime somebody called for a refill on OxyContin, the call got transferred to me. I would get them to tell me the story, write it up, hand deliver it back to the doctor's little stands in the back. Hey, yeah, Miss So and so is calling in because she claims that she went swimming in the Atlantic Ocean with her OxyContin in her pants. and ruin the last 3 weeks of it. I'm not buying that story. I don't think you should I don't think you should either kind of thing, because people tried crazy stuff. I wonder why I can't see your profile pic screen. I don't think Prairie has one anymore. Opioids always end up getting lost. Well, like I said, I had all these lists of reasons. They were all kind of funny for safety and privacy. Yeah, obviously. Similarities between Without a Box of Kleenex and Dee Dee and Without a Box of Kleenex and Ruby Frank are alarming. Yes, yes, indeed, they are. Very alarming. But she has had 7 CPS calls and nothing has been done. Nobody has bothered. Um, thing. So we can't really do much speculation there because we don't know what was said and what was. I do find it suspicious that a child that can eat junk food has a feeding tube. Feeding tubes are very hard to maintain. There's all kinds of anytime you have an opening into your body that is not natural, you're gonna run a higher risk of a variety of things. All it means is that she manipulated 7 CPS workers, in my opinion. It's possible. Poor kiddos. Definitely poor kiddos. I would like to see CPS be more proactive and actually look through these cases where you have these kids with these pile of diagnoses that don't actually make any kind of a decision. I mean, don't make any sense. My child has a G tube. He can't even eat French fries. Lullaby, I know that. I have had family members that have had feeding tubes at various times, and there's some very strict rules about that. And one that had a feeding tube for a while because they weren't eating because of how sick they were. It was only the formula that went in that. Only the formula thing they mix up to provide nutrition, whole nutrition for the child. That was the only thing that went in there. I had a false report. My youngest was not quite 2. I've had a false report one time too. That was years and years ago. Formula only, yep, and they are painful. I'm not looking forward to that with my husband because they're telling him he's actually scheduled for surgery. Yesterday, we finally scheduled surgery. I was able to get on the horn and tell all family members when, where, and everything else, and we started scheduling flights and hotel rooms and different things. So that has happened. But he's gonna have an appliance for a while. And that ain't gonna be pleasant because he's had those before when he had problems with his kidney cancer. I've dealt with CPS many times, not uncommon when you have a child with rare diseases. Claimed my child had bruises. I said, "Come on over. We're in the same team." Lying neighbor was warned that they would be ticketed if they do it again. Oh, that is so horrible. That was one of my concerns with my daughter when she first started having ITP. When I brought her to the doctor, she had bruises that looked like somebody had taken a giant blueberry and smushed it under the skin. She had them everywhere. And I had been bringing her back and forth to the doctors before this even shown and said, "There's something wrong with her. I can't really tell you how and why beyond a low grade fever, but she's not right." So I brought her back to him and he saw the bruises, ran the test, and recognized her for what it was right away and sent us to UVA. And I did not get CPS called on me, but I gotta tell you, I was fearful of that. I was very fearful because those bruises were so many and so wicked looking. They really were. I'd never seen anything like it before. Um, Back to Dee Dee and the whole Gypsy mess. So Gypsy is out of prison now. When I started seeing articles about how she was coming out and she was doing all these interviews and going here and doing there, and that Lifetime is doing a documentary series on her emerging from prison, and she's saying all this stuff about her new husband's man junk, and I'm like, "Are you 12?" Right? And that's what I started looking to see, what kind of therapy did this girl receive in prison? None. She needs therapy very badly. We're watching her do all these crazy things coming out and say all these crazy things, and she takes no responsibility for what happened to her mother. None, and that kinda blows my mind. One of the biggest things when you screw up is apologizing, saying, "Hey, hey, hey, I did wrong. I'm heartily sorry. I don't know how I can make this up, but I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z." I've given CPS an open invitation to come here too. It's the only way to improve things. I agree. Absolutely. Exactly, Lulu. I'm an imperfect mother, but my child is loved, cared for, safe, and needs are all met. Exactly. Exactly. Extreme ownership. You have to have a ownership. And I have to do it too. Hell, those of you that know me well have seen me do it here where I've missed the boat on something and then you gotta say, oh, I gotta say apologize for that. And there are times when I've had to do that. And the one I cite all the time is the time that I laughed at backwards Barbie and told her 100K wasn't enough to live on in a year, and she acted like I'd insulted her. And then later I had to look at why that was and look at how far that would have gone in Mississippi and say, yeah, Mississippi, you could probably live well, but the DC burbs that I'm talking about, 100,000 might get you a condo or an apartment, not a house. I gotta went through juvenile justice. It taught me that the rules apply to me. I'm not worried. I'm worried Gypsy is going to reoffend, but I hope not. I'm worried about that too. And the fact that she's attempting to get pregnant immediately out of prison, I find that very concerning because I can see the potential for another situation. Let's just put it that way. My last job before I started writing, I was working at a children's residential treatment center sometime. And I was a mandatory reporter like I'd been in some of my other jobs, and you just never know, and there are times when I did go ahead and report various people and things because it looked suspicious. It was one of those things where if you missed the boat on it and the child was harmed, it would be just it would eat you. So, I am afraid for everything that's going on with her right now. I'm afraid for the attention, what it's gonna do to her mind. I'm afraid for when the attention stops. You and I all know it will stop. This breathless news cycle will run on to the next biggest thing after a while, and Gypsy will be going, "Hey, wait a minute." It's like that movie Chicago when, the character played by Catherine Zeta-Jones loses attention to the character played by, Renee, I can't think of her last name, looks like she sucks on sour lemons, like, and then a pineapple here, Harris took the attention. Will the cycle resume? Yeah, and once the relentless news cycle stops, there is incredible potential for abuse. There just is, to be a giver and receiver of it, and I'm actually very afraid for this girl. I'm not gonna vilify her and weaponize her like a lot of other people are doing and saying, "Oh, this and that and the other thing," but she has to get therapy because what's going on now is truly sick, and it's just feeding whatever's going on in her mind with this whole thing. Now, as a footnote, I have to mention I finally broke down and finished watching the Harry and Meghan thing on Netflix, and I hate that woman. That's all I'm gonna say. I can't stand Megan, and she reminds me a lot of Gypsy, but a successful Gypsy Rose. When you have people that will do just about anything for publicity to keep the camera spotlight on them while saying, "Don't look at me," it's a sick situation. And that's another sick situation while saying, "Don't," then I just keep looking at it and going, "Those poor kids, those poor kids, those poor kids," because these people have reproduced. And I'm not impressed with Harry, but at least I don't dislike him with the fire of hellfire that I dislike Megan with, because she is a whole different kind of wrong. The only one I like in this situation is I like her mother. So that's another one that concerns me, and particularly if they don't get the kind of publicity and money that they're seeking. Living up in their mansion in Santa Barbara, California, doing whatever it is that rich people do when they have nannies and people to clean the house and everything else. Sounds like a woman from Kansas going to great lengths to get attention by saying, "Don't talk about me." It is a lot like that. Um, hi to the hi to the girl child. I'm sure she's being really cute right now. Ideas on how to keep a and see while eating, that I don't know, because I struggle with that with my youngest, because my youngest was always active and doing stuff and going here and doing there, and for her sickness, and I gotta say this, get in that with this. When she was really sick and she came out of it and they got her kinda under control and treated and everything else, I had to make up my mind whether I was gonna baby her or not. And she had developed this thing where if she got a cut on her finger, she'd be like, "Die, die." And I had to decide to normalize as much stuff as possible, to say, "Yes, you can play soccer, or yay, or on the sidelines," or I had to let her go and let her do things, normal things. I had to normalize her life for her, because if you don't have a child with special needs and you don't let them be as normal as they can be with their physical limitations, you might be doing that child a disservice. I'm not gonna say for every oh my goodness, I just looked up and they're on the roof of the house across the street looking down on us. Ugh. Um, they built a new three-story house over there, and so they can suddenly see over my wall, and I'm not real thrilled with that. So you have to give them the space to be a kid, to do those dumb things, and to do things they wanna do like that. But I don't live there anymore. And if people wanna talk to me, my life is pretty mundane, but go for it. Prairie mine's pretty mundane too, and, tell her that she can eat at the table. Can try that. Yeah, the Kansas woman. I think that's what they're all talking about. I'm not talking about the Kansas woman. I have no opinion either way on the Kansas woman at all. However, I do have an opinion on Cheshire and Manana or Mania or whatever her name is, that have been throwing rocks at Rennell. That is evil what they're doing. What they're doing, they are just making the situation a whole lot worse. They're trying to egg on various people to take legal action and do this and do that. And they're acting like they're going to go and be the star witnesses in various trials and drive the narrative. Whatever. And for all the accusations about the FBI being involved with without a box of Kleenex and other people, I'm not buying it, because if that was true, the FBI would be on various people's doorstep questioning them. Still waiting. There's an FBI office in San Jose, Costa Rica. They could come question me if they wanted. My life is an open book. I I was in there off and on, Lulu, because I can't stand to hear Chesh's annoying voice. I'm just gonna say it. And the fact that she accused both Renelle and I of faking our husband's cancer diagnoses was it's pretty low. I'm gonna say that. That's probably One of the lowest things, and I know why it is, because so many times on social media, people do fake those cancer diagnoses, but here's the difference. Neither Ranella or I have asked for any money for that. We've not said, "Cancer treatments, I need big bucks." I wish I had a can, I'd be rattling it. Rattle my beat up old, "Need cancer treatment money now." No, my husband's treatment is 100% paid for. And even if it wasn't, I wouldn't be doing that because that's just who I am. Will this stop? My sources say no. So expect Cheshire to do another 9-hour video, probably debunking cancer treatments. God knows what she's going to do next. But you do what you got to do, Chesh. The rest of us are going to do what we have to do. I am. And that is just be there for my husband. If you need practical help, we could be there. I may have to. They're in a different city than most people. Yeah. Oh, so, I wasn't there for too much. Hey, Rena. Oh, we're doing okay. We're not having the best or the worst day. I'm having real bad asthma, and I'm getting ready to go suck on my electric bone for a few minutes, and I'm probably gonna sit around and crochet for the day. It's just been one of those times. I gotta tell you guys this is I do stupid shit all the time. And whoops, I said a naughty word. I drink a Diet Coke every day, 1, and I drink coffee in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I drink water. I drink a lot of bubbly water with flavors. Picked up a case at Costco, Price Mart the other day, and I didn't really look at it. I got a different type. I said, "I'll try this type." Strawberry, orange, whatever. Well, guess what? I pulled out one of the strawberries and drank it the other day, and guess what happened? It had kiwi in it, natural kiwi. I'm super allergic to kiwi. Kiwi's on my naughty list. So I gave myself this asthma that I'm having right now by stupidity. And that's so typically me. That's the kind of crap I do. If there's a way to stumble over your own foot and fall down, if there's a way to mess yourself up, I'll do it. Nobody else. It's legislation session. So I have 2-liter Diet Pepsi each day in order to not lose it. Yeah. I don't drink quite that much, but you see how big my cup is. I fill my cup up, my huge tumbler, after I finish with my huge tumbler full of coffee because I have to have some caffeine or I just cannot function. Okay, you guys, so that's really it, Gypsy Rose. I think she needs therapy, and I think the stuff she's doing right now in the media is extremely off-putting. I predict plastic surgery. I predict her going on the rounds of the plastic surgery shows like Botched and everything else and getting plastic surgery and going ahead and doing all kinds of stuff. I think that the behavior is going to ramp up as the media attention wanes. Cheshire was drinking a lot. Yeah, I saw that. Lots of liquid courage. Plus, she's the type who only takes herself into consideration with trying to fill her bank account. Say a prayer for Gypsy. That's the best thing we can do, I think, right now, because that is the only way. It's the best thing we can do. Just say a prayer. You're right. You're absolutely right. And that kind of goes for anybody that you struggle with. I've always found it's a lot more helpful to pray for the people I struggle with than it is to just go on hating them. And I try to do that even without a box of Kleenex, even people who may or may not be in Kansas. So let's pray for them. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go. Husband's home. I need to use my nebulizer. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. And disclaimer, all these are just my opinions. They're not well-vetted facts. You need to do your research of anything to do with Gypsy or anybody else.